me know. Okay, so to observe this one, I need two charge objects, right? You can see two charge object here. So the object number one will click and drag all the way to the left hand side end. Then you can see a meter ruler here, right? So if you take that meter ruler, you can align the 0 point with the charge object one midpoint. Okay, remember this R is actually measuring from midpoint to midpoint. Okay, so that is the midpoint of the object number one. This is the midpoint of the object number two. This R is measuring from midpoint to midpoint. Okay, they are Q1, Q2. Okay, now we know we can use any different type of charges here. Let's do positive 10 microcoulomb for Q1, positive 10 microcoulomb for Q1, and then let us start Q2, positive 1 microcoulomb. You can click and drag this icon here for each charge, or you can use these arrows. Okay, either one should works fine. Okay, now you can see charge object number one should be at your left hand side very end. Charge object number two you can bring all the way to the closest as possible to charge object number one. So the closest possible place you can bring that is about like 1.4 centimeters from the object number one. Okay, you can't bring anything closer than that. Okay, so then let's take a look what it's asking on the lab manual. So if you scroll down, the procedure is actually explained right here step by step on the page number 2, but let's take a look at the tables. Okay, so the data table 1 and 2 for the case number, the part number 1 of the experiment. Part A, we testing the electrostatic force or the Coulomb force, right? So the table number 1, you have object number 1, object number 2, multiplying Q1 and Q2, and the separation, force observed, and then force calculated. Force observed is the numbers you actually directly observing from here. Force calculated is actually by using this equation. Since I know if Q1, Q2, and R, and the K, I can do the calculation. K is 8.98 times 10 to the 9. Okay, it's a constant. So technically, table number 1 is actually testing this equation, okay, by using the simulation. Easiest way to do this is actually by using the Excel. If you open the Excel, and then you can build this table very easily. So I have this table already, so I'm going to copy paste that, but you have to build yourself, okay? Building mean you have to just rename all the columns, okay? So that's all. Okay. So the case number 1, we actually testing F versus electrostatic force as a function of charges, which means the separation we're going to keep constant. We will not change the separation at all. We'll keep it constant. And in charge of Q1, we're keeping it 10 micron, 10 microcoulomb. You can see I'm changing everything into a standard scientific notation. Let me take a look at that. It should be fine now. You see the Excel sheet, right? Okay. So you have the these data tables. You don't need to see actually my Excel sheet. You have the data table here, okay? In your lab manual, you have to create the same data table on the Excel sheet. If you use in the Excel, I see some of the students is still not using Excel. I see your submission, and then some of them already is still writing. in hand on these data tables. I don't know why. It's just wasting time, okay? So it really wasting your time. So you have to think about yourself again. So I strongly suggest use the Excel or any other software to do this instead of doing the calculator and then doing this. That is not the right way. That is not the smart way to do this kind of work. Okay, so you have to start thinking differently. So if you're still using the calculator to do this kind of work, and then which mean you are still in high school or below level. Okay, you have to think about that strongly. Okay, all right. So you can build this formatting you can do later. As I mentioned earlier, you have to name every column and then name the table and then so on. Charge number one we keep in fixed, and then let's change the charge number two, and then we'll observe the force observed and then write it down here. That's what the lab is asking, okay? And the calculated force, you know how to do that. Calculated force is K times Q1, Q2 divided by R to the power 2. This is the function I'm using. So you should be familiar now with all of these. So this is the function I'm using. I will leave it here. You can refer that later, okay? That is a function I'm using to calculate the K. Okay, question so far? So let me write it down. Okay. So this one right here, K 8.98 into the 9, B6 is charge number 2, A6 is charge number 1, and then each charge is microcoulomb, okay? So you have to multiply by 10 to the negative 6, 10 to the negative 6, 10 to the negative 12, each of them, and then divide by R to the power 2. R is actually D6 to the power 2, okay? So that's the function I'm using. You can see how I build this table. Each charge has this 10 to the negative 6. That is a micro. I keep it that here because that is common for the whole column. And then again here, it is common for the whole column. When I multiply Q1 and Q2 again, 10 to the negative 12 is common for the whole column. Okay, so I keep it separately, that 10 to the power value. Then the whole table you can actually format, right click, highlight and right click, format cells, scientific notation, about 3 decimal places. That means 4 significant figures, right? Then all of us gonna have about the same significant figure, okay? Good. Now all you have to do, observe the force from your simulation and then complete this table. So very simple. So let's go to the simulation. And then this is the observed value. You can see it's the same number, but it repelling force, okay? All of those information, you can see this arrow represent the direction of the force, and then the number up to about, you can see about 6 significant figures. But since I can't measure this displacement up to significant figure number 6, we can use only 4. That's okay, I think. So the observed value is 458.549. 458.549. You can see my calculated value and the observed value is very slightly off, not much. So I can find the percentage difference, parenthesis, equal sign, absolute value, parentheses, difference between these two, close parentheses, divide by, percent difference we calculating, parentheses, average of these two, addition of these two, close bracket, divide by 2, multiply by 100. Let me take a look why it's not showing the number. Maybe I need another parenthesis here. Okay. So let me copy paste that function to ABS is actually just to get the positive number. Okay. I will leave it here. This function is actually for the force calculated. Okay. If calculated, and the second one is actually percentage different. Okay. Both functions you can see just below the table. Okay, then let's continue. What we're doing is actually we observing the force between these charges as the magnitude of the charge change. So the force must be changed, right? So that's the idea of this Coulomb law. All we need. Anybody have any questions so far? Everybody okay up to here? Everybody have the table? Anybody still working on the table? Row number 1. So this you can build as you go on. Okay, you don't need to build the whole thing. So just complete the row number 1, and then name and everything. You can just write it down very briefly now, but you can format this later. Okay, so the formatting is up to you. This whole table is already on your lab manual. Okay, I'm not doing anything new. So the lab manual, you have that table. Okay, this is the table we are working on. I'm building the same table on my Excel sheet. Okay, so that's only different I'm doing. If you do that way, then you can save a lot of time because you can copy paste that whole table onto your Word file later. This lab is actually going to be detailed lab report, right? This is lab number 2. Okay, question. And you need all the units of each of these. This is in meters. I'm measuring separation between the charges in centimeters. Centimeters 1.4 multiplied by 10 to the negative 2, right? Force should be in Newton. And then force calculated also should be in Newton. And percentage different, there's no particular unit for the percentage difference, so you can put the percentage sign there to represent the percentage different. Okay, equation. So to consistency, I'm keeping about 4 significant figures hold this table. Okay, so then I don't need to reformat again and again. So the everything going to be on the same, up to same number of significant figures. Any question so far? Good. Okay, then let's continue. All right, all we have to do is change the magnitude of the charge object number 2 and then observe the force. Simulation is right here. So your object number 1 charge should be set it into 10 microcoulomb. Object number 2 charge should be set it into 1 microcoulomb, and then observe this force. That all really, nothing you have to do. Okay, and the separation between them should be about 1.4 centimeters. Okay, you can bring this meter ruler to close by and then measure that. Okay, 1.4 centimeters. And that's all. Then we'll change by clicking this arrow, object number 2, change the charge object number 2 into 2 microcoulomb, force change into 917.09. So just get that number and then put it here, 917.09. That's all really. And then calculated value, you have to calculate it. Now you can see charge is different. So let me erase this part and then calculate as we go on. I will show you that is why this is much easier when you do the calculation for one cell. If you go downward, you don't need to do that. Spend the time on calculation again. You click this cell, you see very edge, right side, lower edge is actually like the solid box. You click there and then drag downward direction. It will does the calculation automatically for you. And then similarly, this one, you do it only for one row and then click and drag. It will does the calculation for you automatically. So everything is very simple to do if you're using the Excel or any other data analysis software. Okay, if you're using the calculator and then write it down, everything, that is up to you. I'm not going to say anything, but you're wasting a lot of your time. Then increase the charge object number 2 to 3 microcoulomb. Observe these numbers, 1375.64. Just plug that into third row. 1375.64. And to calculate this one, calculate the force, click and drag, 1374. You can see there's a slight difference. That's totally fine, because when we calculating, we have actually more significant figures than the observed value. So you will get like fourth decimal place, third decimal place, or the fourth significant figure is slightly off. So our percentage error is 0.08%. It's very, very small. Okay. And that's all. Then you continue this, increase the charge all the way to 10. 4 micron, 1834.19. 1834.19. 5 microcoulomb, 2292.74. 2292.74. 6 microcoulomb, 2751.29. 2751.29. 7 micron, 3209.84. 3209.84. 8 microcoulomb, only you changing object number 2, okay? Object number 1, keep it same, otherwise it's not much meaningful. 3668.38. 3668.38. 9 microcoulomb, 4126.93. 4126.93. 10 microcoulomb, object number 2, largest value which we can select on the simulator, 4585.48. 4585.48. Okay, so all those are the observed electrostatic force between the charges. Now, to get the calculated values, you all have to do just click this and drag. That will do the calculation for you automatically. See, I can do this whole table and then hold this part of the simulation in 5 minutes. So that's the idea. So you can save a lot of time if you really practice this, how to use the Excel, okay? Otherwise, if you perform this with your calculator, you have to spend maybe half an hour to do, because each one you have to do the calculation again and again, okay? Good, any questions so far? Anybody completed table number 1? Okay, sounds good. So remember charge number 1. Remember charge number 1, we don't change at all. Charge number 1 remaining 1 microcoulomb. See, which I write it down this a certain way. I put only 10 microcoulomb. I put 10 here. But 10 to the negative 6 to represent the microcoulomb, I put it in with the units, okay, because that is same for the whole column 1. Same for the column 2. Micro, I put it on the top, that is 10 to the negative 6. Only numbers I am putting here, okay. Okay. And Q1 and Q2, just multiplying these two together. Let me copy paste that function also just below that column. Multiply these two together. Okay, that is to multiply Q1 and Q2, right? So Q1 times Q2. So that is a function to get the Q1 times Q2. If you want to see that, that is already there. And RE separation is actually fixed. Same separation between the charges. We did not change that. Because of that, it is 1.4 centimeters. So we are writing down in scientific notation. You will see this e to the power e minus 0.2 means 10 to the power negative 2. Okay. So that is how the Excel is representing 10 to the power value. And then observed value here, these are directly from the simulation. Okay. If observed is actually directly from the simulation, if OBS is actually from simulation. Only if calculation right here, we actually doing the calculation by using the function which is electrostatic force K times Q1 Q2 divided by R to the power 2. Okay, so you can see the function here. When you doing the function, you can do 10 to the power value with this way, 10, then the hat, that is shift times the 6 and the number, or you can just write this way. Either way works, okay? E with positive 0.1 or E with negative 0.2, those are actually automatically will take as 10 to the power values in Excel. You can do either way you like. Okay, good. Any question? And the percentage error calculation also, you can see the function here. Difference divided by the average multiplied by 100. We do in percentage different, not the percentage error. Remember that too, okay? So we do in percentage difference, okay? Difference over average times 100. So I'm using ABS because we are interested only positive values, okay? Now in your procedure of this lab manual, so it asking you right here, there's a couple of questions attached to each table. Make a graph if observed versus Q1, Q2 for table number 1, and then check whether it is obeys Coulomb's law or not, right? So we can make a graph, click anywhere on this Excel sheet, insert, scatter plot, then you will see a graph page without anything. Then you click the select data, add, select X values, X should be X should be Q1, Q2, and X should be Q1, Q2, product, this column number 3, and then Y should be force observed, those are these values. And then hit enter, click OK. You can see that is what we expecting. Theoretically, this is our expectation, right? If you make a graph, force on y-axis, Q1, Q2 on x-axis, you should get a linear graph, right? So that's what we observing. So if you get that graph, which means we are doing it correctly, and then you have to do a couple of other things. You have to add axis title, and then you have to add the trend line, linear. So all of these you can do before you put this back into your lab report. Okay, you have to name this correctly. You have to put a right name here. I will leave it like that. You can do that later. Axis, you can name it. Just click here and then put the right axis with the unit, right axis with the unit here, and then so on. Okay, let me do this only for one. but I'm not going to do it for all the graphs. Okay, so let me do it for only this. Title, you can type this is what electrostatic force versus Q1, Q2, or you can say charges. And the axis title here is actually charges Q1 and Q2. You have to put the units there. Units gonna be coulomb to the power 2, right? And similarly, axis title for Y, which should be force observed, right? Force OBS, and then unit gonna be Newton. Okay, so all of those information must be there every single graphs you make during the class. Okay, for any of the other labs too. And then if you have a scatter plot, make sure always there's a fitted line. Fitted line should be with the dotted line, so that is a trend line. Okay, and in this case trend line should be linear. We are not doing any calculation with the graph at this point. You can leave it like that and then copy paste this graph into your Word file later. Okay, any questions so far? And then you have to write it down, couple of sentences to explain whether you get the expected behavior or not by doing the simulation. Okay, so that you can do in your lab report. Linear behavior means we get in the expected behavior, right? Right here. So if this obeys the Coulomb's law, if I keep the R constant, K is a constant, then technically F is directly proportional to Q1, Q2, right? Case in table 1. In table 1, if you K is a constant, R is a constant, these two are constant. As a result of that, F is directly proportional to product of Q1 and Q2, which means I should get linear behavior. Okay. So that means we're getting exactly what it's supposed to be. You have to explain that in couple of sentences. 1 or 2 sentences is good enough. Okay, question. Everybody okay with that? Okay, so if you do everything here now, you almost done this part, right? Everything you've done. And then when you're doing the lab report, you just need to copy paste this. That's all. Very simple. So let's continue. Anybody have any question? Okay, then let's continue to table number 2. Okay, table number 2, we're going to check electrostatic force as a function of separation between the charges, right? So that's the other observation. You can see theoretically what we're expecting. Theoretically, if I keep, this is for table number 2, if I keep Q1 and then Q2 and K, all of these constant, then our force should be inversely proportional R to the power 2, which means if I make a graph should be exponentially decaying like this one, right? 10 to the negative 2, power 10 to the negative 2 behavior, which means I should show exponentially decaying graph. So that's the idea. So by doing the experiment, you have to check whether I'm getting this observation or not. To do the observation, you have to make a graph, force observed versus R, that should show something like that. That's all, very simple. If I get that behavior, then our theoretical explanation is validating. Okay, to do that, what we do? To do that, you can go back to the simulation. Now you can see in the simulation, I have 2 charges which is separated by 1.4 centimeters at this point. And then both charges are positive 10 micron and 10 micron. You can leave charges as it is 10 micron and 10 micron. And separation, we starting from 1.4 centimeters. You can see this meter ruler is in centimeter. Between each 1 centimeter, you can see another 4 small lines. So each one small line is about 0.2 centimeters. Okay. All right, so all we have to do now, click this charge number 2 and then bring it away from the charge number 1. You can see as I bringing away from the charge number 1, so the force magnitude is actually decreasing by large percentage. So that's the idea. So let's go back to the starting point, 1.4, and then we'll build first we'll build this table on our Excel sheet, then we'll plug the numbers and then it is easy, then we'll make the graph. Any questions so far? Anybody have any question? Since I already have this table here, I'm copy pasting, but you have to build it yourself. Okay, building mean technically you have to name these columns. Okay, that's all you have to do. Okay, so this is table number 2. Table number 2, let me delete these calculations here. All right. So now the both charges are 10 micron and 10 micron. These not going to change, right? So the 10 and 10. And the separation is actually changing. Separation, we're going to start from 1.4 centimeters and then going to continue all the way to 10 centimeters location. Okay, so let me highlight everything here and then format all the cells to represent scientific notation about 3 decimal places, which mean 4 significant figures like we done for the previous table, right? So the consistency we can go like that, since we're not doing this in class. If it is in class, we gonna write it down all the significant figures with our measured values. But for consistency, we can go 4 significant figures for each case for this one, okay? And again, the Q1 is in micron, which means there should be 10 to the negative 6 power here. Coulomb unit. Q2, 10 to the negative 6 in Coulomb, and then R in meters. R unit in meters, and R to the power 2. Meter to the power 2. That you don't even need this column. I just leave it like that because when I do the force calculation, that is easier. That's why. And when I do force calculation, force you know K times Q1, Q2 over R to the power 2. Now I will you already done on previous table. I will copy paste that again here. Okay, so that is to do the force FCal, but this has to change a little bit, I think. Let me copy paste this whole thing again to write here. Okay, now you have the right function for if calculated. So to get the R squared, you know R value is here, so I can take the cell to the power 2. So that is actually to get the R squared. Let me copy paste that also. To get the R to the power 2. So that's the function needed. To get the force calculated, function needed right there. Okay, good. And then we are planning on changing this. Let me delete this one too. Now you should be completed this row, okay, row number 1. Let us go back to the simulation and then observe the force right now. Charges should be fixed at positive 10, positive 10. Separation 1.4 centimeters. Force right now 4585.48. 4585.48 in Newton. And then force calculated, you know how to do that with the function just below here. And then let's do the percentage different, equal sign, ADS parentheses, separation between these two, different between the values, divide by average between the values, adding those two together, divide by 2, multiply by 100 to get the percentage. Okay. So let me copy paste that function also. Just below here. And this is to do the percentage different. Okay, equation. Okay, so you see the two functions here and three functions which you need to get the R square, force calculated, and the percentage difference. Question? Good. No questions. Then let's continue. We'll do 2 centimeters. 2 centimeters means 0.02. 2 centimeter separation between the charges. Okay. So all you have to do, don't change the charges. Now we change in the radius. So click the object number 2, bring it to midpoint of the object number 2, click and drag 2 centimeter location. Okay, midpoint should be at 2 centimeter location. Okay, midpoint. And then extract the force 2246.88. 2246.88. And then now you can see I done all the calculation with the function on row number 1. So which means if you want to redo that for row number 2, you click this right hand, very lower side, you can see when you click on the cell, it becomes like a solid dot, green color solid dot, click and drag downward. It will do the calculation for you automatically. See that? So that's the advantage using a software. That's why we need the software to do the data analysis. Okay. If you are still using the calculator, think about again and then try to use the Excel at least to start with the data analysis. Okay. Any correction so far? Everybody okay with that? I'm telling you this again and again because it's actually so important. It doesn't matter your major. Okay, you don't need to necessarily be a computer major to do the data analysis with the software. Okay, because it doesn't matter which field you go, humanities, business, anything. After these 2 years, you have to do data analysis some way, even biology. Okay. There will be a data analysis and then all the data analysis done with the software, not with the calculator any longer. So that's what I'm telling you, to stop using the calculator completely. Okay, it's not really anything meaningful or anything useful for your future. Okay. All right, then we'll extract the force values. So all we need is click and drag the object number 2 to 3 centimeter location. Midpoint should be at 998.61. Let's first complete the observed, then we'll do the calculation later. 998.61. And then this is 3 centimeter. 3 centimeter means 0.03 in meters. Okay. Then let's do 4 centimeter. Observed value. 4 centimeter. Midpoint should be at 561. 561.72, 561.72, and then 5 centimeters, Any questions so far? 359.50, 359.50, 6 centimeters, 249.64, 249.64, 65, 7 centimeters, separation only we changing, 18341, 8 centimeters, if you're not getting the same values, which mean your charges might be different, you have to check that, okay? Charge number 1 should be 10 micron, charge number 2 should be 10 micron. Otherwise, you should get exactly same numbers. There's no reason to be different. Okay. 8 centimeters, 140.43. Check that again. Anthony. 9 centimeters, 1110.95. 10 centimeters, that's the maximum we can go in the simulation, 89.87, 89.87. Okay. With the same charge, you're getting 133 on 8 centimeters. That's okay, I think. Make sure midpoint should be on that level. Okay, when you measuring the midpoint of the charge should be on that location. Okay, midpoint, you can see charge is a large object. Okay, large circular object. When you bring the meter ruler, we measuring midpoint to midpoint. You can see this small black dot, that is the midpoint. Okay, you have to measure between those two dots, black dot to black dot, in the middle of the charge. Okay, if you're not measuring that correctly, then you might getting the wrong answer. That's all. Then we know this is 0.05. Let's complete that. R 0.06, 0.07, 08, 09, 0.1. And then the calculation is very simple. If you use in the Excel, you just need to click and drag. Only we have to do the first row. Then you can see you can finish this calculation very quickly. And then the question asking you to make a graph, insert scatter plot without any data first. Then select data, add the data, X values, click here. X values should be now R in meters. Y values should be now force observed. Okay, so that these values, then click OK and click OK again. Now if you see exponential decay behavior, then we have the right graph. You need the axis title and we need the trend line. I need to change the trend line into, make the more option, change that into power. Then you will get a trend line with the power behavior. You can see that dotted line is actually perfect fit with the data. So I'm not gonna write it down, chart title, axis title, everything you know we done for the previous graph. Everything you have to do it yourself. Okay. All right. So we done table number 2. Question. Now, one thing to keep in mind, you have to do this yourself. Okay, there's no group work or anything. So when you submitting the lab report, it should be your individual work. Do not get the Excel sheet from anyone else. that will give you very large matching percentage when you submit that via Turnitin. Okay, Turnitin doing the plagiarism checker. So if you do this yourself, there should be something different. Okay, size of the cell is different, something is different. The data might be the same, but something different I can identify. Okay, so if I don't see that, you will get huge point reduction. Do not copy paste. Also, do not share your Excel sheet with anyone else. Okay, do not share with anyone else. Do it yourself. So that's something. Group works are always good, but keep in mind. So you have to practice yourself. Otherwise, at some point in your life, you will face a difficulty. There will not be anybody to do anything for you. You have to do it yourself. In few months, when you start 4-year college, it will be all your work alone. So nobody there to do anything for you. Okay, so let's continue to next part of the lab. Any question so far? So we done table 1 and 2, both graphs. You have to explain the behavior of the graph. And let's take a look at table number 3 and 4. Part B of the lab. Any questions so far? Everybody okay with the tables? Everybody done the calculation? Good? No questions? Okay, then let's continue. Let's take a look what we try to do on part B of the experiment. So the part B of the experiment, what we try to do, we're going to make what we call equipotential maps. So what is equipotential line? So let's take a look. We still did not discuss the potential, but let's take a look what it means first. So if you have a charged particle, let's say I have a positive Q here. If you go r distance away, now you know positive Q has these field lines, right? So all the field line should be going away from the positive Q. You know all the field lines should be look like this, right? If you go r distance from the positive Q, let's say this is r distance, point P, from this positive Q. So this r distance, this point P has a potential, a certain potential energy Vp. We will talk about this in this week actually, okay, tomorrow. So this potential is actually kq divided by r. So we'll prove that equation tomorrow during the class. So this potential is actually, you can see, depending on the k, q and r, if I keep the k and q constant, if these two are constant for one particular charge, which means Vp is inversely proportional to the separation between the point P and the charge q. So if I keep this r constant and then go around the charge, if I keep the positive charge here, go same r distance and then mark this point, same potential point, so you will get a circle around this point charge q. Get that idea? So that means this r keeping the same and then mark a point and then connect all those points, then you will get a circle. So which means anywhere on this circle, if you have a potentiometer, like a multimeter, if this is a real experiment, if I measure the potential difference between these 2 points, point Q and then point Q, by using the potentiometer, if I measure the potential, then I will get the same number on this line. So that is called equipotential line. So that's the idea. So this is equipotential line. Potential is equal everywhere on that line. So that's the idea of equipotential. Get it? Any question so far? Anybody have any question on that? everybody know the potential is the work done. We will use the idea of which you've done on physics 1, the idea of the work done to develop that equation tomorrow. Until that, we will use the equation directly here. Any questions so far? So which means if I go different locations around this and then keep the same separation, let's say if I pick another point here, let's say that point is point A. If I draw a line by keeping the same radius around this point, then I will get another equipotential. So let's say this is V1, then this is V2, different potential. Okay, good. Any questions so far? Okay, so now if I get the potential difference between two equipotential lines, that is absolute value of V1 minus V2. We don't care the sign, we just need the difference, okay? If you get the difference between any equipotential line, I can use that difference to figure out what is the electric field between these two equipotential. We know the direction by looking at the charge. This electric field by this equipotential line should be actually closer, much closer to do this experiment correctly, otherwise it is inaccurate. If I know the potential difference and the separation delta R between that equipotential line, so I can use those information to find it out electric field between equipotential line. By knowing these two, by knowing those two, I can find the electric field between these equipotential line is delta V over delta R. So that's what we're going to check next part of the lab. All of this information we will discuss very in detail during the tomorrow's class, okay? Now, similarly, if you have a negative charge, we will do this for only positive charge, but if I have a negative charge here, what will be different? If I have a negative Q, you know all the electric field lines should be actually coming towards, the arrow should be towards the charge. If I pick the point R, then if I use the same radius and then draw a line, that is equipotential line 1. So if I pick another point right here, use the same R and then draw a line, that is equipotential 2. And then if I know the delta R between two equipotential lines, if I know these potential values V1 and V2, so I can calculate what is the electric field between these two equipotential lines too, that is delta V over delta R. Okay, good. Any question? Now, why we need this one? If you're doing this in class, this experiment, electric field lines, you can't really see. The whole idea is actually in simulation, you will see that immediately. But if I do this in class, actual electric field lines, you can't see. What you can see directly is actually measured potential values. If you're doing in class, this is how we're going to do this. If this is an in-class experiment, we're going to set up an electrode. We're going to take a metal piece and then connect that metal piece into a battery positive terminal. We're going to take the battery and then positive terminal, we're going to connect there. And then going to take the negative terminal. We're going to set up another electrode that we call negative, but the negative terminal is actually 0, right? So I have a huge potential here, V plus. Potential here is actually 0 if it is an in-class experiment. Now we're going to set up this on a piece of paper, usually. We have a particular setup to do that. So that paper is actually a graph sheet. Graph sheet. Now the question is that we would like to know what is the electric field behavior in between these two charges. You know these two charges look like the point particles, so we call this actually dipole, right? So you have one positive, one negative close by each other, that is a dipole. Now the electric field, you know, field line should be starting from positive going towards negative, right? Should be look like that, but this is invisible. You can't really see these lines, right? In real life, you can't really see this. what we can measure directly, you can't even measure this. You can't measure anything, electric field directly, but you can measure electric potential. So what we're going to do, if it is an in-class experiment, we're going to measure potential. I'm going to go like R distance here. We're going to measure potential V1. Another distance here, we're going to measure potential V2. Another distance here, potential V3, and then so on. So you know, if I keep the same R1 here and then go around this charge, you will get a circle. So that is a equipotential line, right? If you go around here, you will get another circle. These are equipotential line. So I'm going to measure this V1 everywhere, mark this point physically, and then draw this line. If we do this in class, that is what we're going to do. By doing that, at the end, what we're getting is actually I have two charged particles, and then I have equipotential lines around it. So this is actually what we call equipotential map. This is V1, V2, V3, V4, V5. Now this is equipotential map. That is the only thing we can do experimentally. We can't really measure electric field. Now you know electric field must start from positive and then go towards negative, right? So it should start here, go towards negative. When the electric field line crossing through the equipotential line, this cross through should be 90-degree angle to each other. That's the idea. So which means by knowing equipotential map, I can actually draw my electric field map. This red line, you can't really measure anything. You can draw by knowing the behavior of the equipotential line. So this is actually just draw, guide to the eye. So this is not actually scaled or anything. This is just the guide to the eye. So this red line now represent the electric field line. So you have to put the arrows if this is in class experiment. Then we have electric field maps. Make sense? Get the idea? So that means this red line is actually the electric field map. So the electric field map we're going to do by actually mapping the equipotential line. So that's the plan. That's what we're doing if this is in-class experiment. That's going to take a lot of time if we're doing this in class, because to get this equipotential map is actually taking a lot of time. You have to measure individually to get this each of this line, you have to measure like 10 or more data point, right? So you have to have a lot of data points to get this circle, right? So then after you have enough data point, you're going to connect those data points together to see the shape of the potential. Those going to take a lot of time. You need maybe 10 or more data points for each line. Data points for each line, so that's going to take a lot of time. Any questions so far? So that's the idea about the simulation. This is very simple. You can see the link here. Just click on that. Then that will bring you into this kind of page. So the page initially should be look like this. The background is blank. Initially it should be look like this, and then click on this arrow. That will bring into this page. That page background initially look like very black. That's okay. Just keep it like that. I will explain how to get the page what we needed in a bit. Just unclick this electric field there. You can use the black background, it doesn't matter actually, but I would like to use the projector mode, because if I use the projector mode, I can see the grid and everything clearly. That is the graph page which I mentioning earlier. If I do in the in-class, so that is what we're going to do. I'm going to put a graph page first, graph sheet first, and then top of that, I'm going to build the electrode. To build the electrode, what you need, if this is in-class experiment, a battery, and then a small metal piece, right? So by using that, I can build the electron. Building the electrode mean technically, I need the charge particle here. So that charge particle, now you can see 1 nanocoulomb. Okay, this NC represent nanocoulomb. Okay, now you know electric field line going away from the positive charge, right? If you click this electric field line, you can see right hand side very top. If you click that, you can see the arrows going away from the charge. That's the electric field lines which we were talking about earlier. Now around this charge, if I measure voltage on different location, now you can see when I bring this is a equipotential voltmeter, right? So the voltage sensor, you can see that is two selection tools on your right hand side. One is a tape. One is just a tape, right? You can click and drag here, measure the distances. And then the other one, this square shaped item is actually a potentiometer. If you take a look that one, you can see this pointer here, black circle with the two lines, vertical and horizontal. So if you place that any location, that will give you a potential around this charge particle. You can see if I am close to the charge particle, potential is very large. If I go away from the charge particle, potential is decreasing rapidly because behavior of potential is 1 over R. See this equation, behavior of potential is exponentially decaying because it's 1 over R, okay? So that behavior I should observe if everything is correct in my theory. So then I should observe that behavior close to this charge. I'm getting about like 64 volt. But if I go like a couple of centimeters, then you can see voltage is almost close to 1. If we go more and more, then it is decreasing towards 0. To get the 0, you have to go all the way to infinity, right? So that's the idea. Okay, question. Any questions so far? Don't worry about asking question, and then you should try to do the whole lab during the class time. Okay, so don't complain later. I spend a lot of time on the lab, so because you spending a lot of time on the lab, you doing the labs without proper, not the proper way. If you carefully pay attention, do all this during the class, then you don't need to spend a lot of time really. Making the lab report need another 1 or 2 hours, that's all. Okay, any questions so far? All right, so let's take a look what's your lab manual asking you to do on the case 2. So case 2, we're going to take a look how the potential varies as a function of radius. Radius means the separation between the point of interest and the charge particle. Okay, and then later we're going to calculate the electric field between equipotential lines, and then by using that information we will calculate the charge, and then estimate charge. We're going to compare with the known charge value on the simulator, that is actually 1 nanocoulomb. Okay, that's the plan. Good. Any questions so far? Okay, now get rid of this electric field by clicking top of this right hand side selection tool. Anybody have the difficulty with the simulator? Everybody have this page correctly? Background, projector mode. Any question? Okay, no questions. All right, so let's continue then. Everybody have the page correctly? Good? No problem? Okay, so I need this tape because then I can take a look the separation between each of these square values. So you can see This is a graph sheet, right? So there's the small squares and the large squares, right? Let's measure the separation between large squares. So each side of the large square is about like 50 centimeters. Okay, so even the small error when you measuring this one, you can see each of the small square is about 10 centimeters. Any difference, any error happening here, going to be huge error later on the table number 3. Okay, so keep that in mind. So I have to measure this separation. Let's bring one charge particle, exactly middle of the charge particle. Let's place that somewhere here. Middle of that positive value, middle of that positive sign should be aligned with the middle of this large square corner, okay, right here. And then I'm going to place this tape right here, that is a measuring tape. The starting point of the measuring tape, I'm going to align exactly same line as the point charge, okay. So that is then my 0, 0 point. And then as I click and drag, so the separation between the charge and then this vertical line right here is about 250 centimeters. Okay, that's the error. Now you can see it should be 250, but it's slightly off because depending on this position, it is actually showing slightly off value. So that is actually error. Because we know separation between each of these solid lines, large solid lines, should be 50 centimeters. Okay. All right, now step number one is actually building this equipotential line, right? Now, you know, if you have a point charge, if you go r distance away, and then measure the same potential around the point charge, you can build a line. So that line is actually called the equipotential line, right? To do that, what we have to do, go into the simulator and then bring this potential. Let's go about 50 centimeters, okay, 50 centimeters. 50 centimeters. And the number you can see on this potentiometer 17.84. Inside the potentiometer, you can see a couple of other icons, right? Inside the potentiometer, you can see this pencils tool, right? If you click that pencil, you can see it will build a line for you automatically. So that line everywhere, if you click and drag this potentiometer everywhere on that line, is actually represent the same potential. That is the equipotential line. So that's the idea. Now, to see that number, you can see the icon called voltage on your right hand side top. If you click that, voltage values right here. So that values is actually show you exact value on that equipotential line. Everywhere on that back line, potential is the same. That's what is the meaning of the equipotential. Okay, if you take this and then bring this sensor everywhere, you will see the same value. So I have one equipotential line. So I need more. To get more, you go another one large square away from the charge particle. Click again the pencil sign, then you will get another equipotential line. Then you go another large square. Click again the equipotential line. Another large square, another line, and then we'll do about like 5 or 6 equipotential line. I'm drawing this after each one large square, okay? It's going to be slightly off because you can see the large square. This line has a thickness, right? So it will be slightly error, but that's okay. So you can see as I go further and further away, this voltage is actually decreasing. So I'm observing the behavior which is similar to 1 over R. Okay, that's the idea. Now you have equipotential map. Now this is called the equipotential map, right? You have a charge particle. Around the charge particle, you have equipotential map. Now this is the one we actually making if it is an in-class experiment. You're going to make you're going to use a multimeter and then measure the voltage, and that's where it's going to take a time, right? To make each of these black line, you need more data point. You can't, here what I do is just click this pencil, right? But you can't do this. If it is in-class experiment, you have to do like about 10 or more data point for each line to make this line. So that means you have to do like 100, 150 dots on this page to make these lines possible. Okay, that's where the time taking. So about 100 point roughly to get about like 10 different equipotential lines. Okay, question. Everybody have the equipotential map? Good? No question? Okay, now let's take a look what's the lab manual is asking. Let's build this table also with your Excel sheet. So let's take the Excel sheet and then build this on the Excel sheet. Any questions so far? Okay, so we're building table number 3. Okay, you have to rename all the columns and everything. I'm going to bring that table from my previous table right here. I already built that and then have it here. Okay, let's paste there. All right, so the table number 3, electrostatic field analysis. Let's rename this one. Now what we're doing is electric field for point charge particle. So electric field and equipotential, you can say electric field and equipotential. You can name any way you like, but the idea should be there. Okay, that's the idea. Equipotential maps analysis. Okay, so electric field map and equipotential map analysis. So this is a point-like particle, right? So we call point-like electrode. Potential is measured unit of volt, and the radius is measured unit of meters. And then we're going to calculate electric field between those equipotential line, electric field, point-like electrode between equipotential lines. And then we're going to calculate charge. I will tell you how to do that in a bit. And then we're going to compare the calculate charge with the charge we're using on our equipotential map. Charge we're using on the equipotential map is about 1 nanocoulomb. Okay, this is very small on your simulator. Charge we are using is 1 nanocoulomb. Okay, let's take a look. Now we'll measure potential values with the radius first. Okay, so the first potential 17.8. 17.8. Radius is separation between the charge particle and the equipotential line. First black line is actually 50 centimeters. Okay, each of largest square is 50 centimeters. So let's format this table also to represent about highlight, right click, and scientific notation. Let's do about like 4 significant figures. Second equipotential line, 9 volt, separation between is 1 meters. Okay. 9 volt, 1 meters. Third equipotential line, 6 volt, 1.5 meters. We go in each 50 centimeter at a time. Okay. Fourth equipotential line, 4.5. Fifth one, 3.6, 7, 3.0, 6, 3.0, 7, 2.6, 8, 2.2. That's good enough, I think, but you can do maybe 1 or 2 more. 2.0 and 1.8. Okay, we'll have enough data points. question. And the separation between each equipotential line and the charge is each 50 centimeter adding up, right? We starting at 0.5, 1 centimeter, 100 centimeter, 150, 1.5 meters, 2 meters, 2.5 meters, 3 meters, 3.5 meters, 4, 4.5, and then 6. Okay, question. Anybody have any question? Everybody okay with the data set? Format cells, scientific notation. We try to keep about 4 significant figures, okay, for all the calculation. Okay, question. I will show you that in a bit, okay? Yeah, we'll talk about that in a bit. Everybody get this data from the equipotential. Everybody okay with that? Last one is 1.8 volt, 6 meters away from the charge. Okay. All right, let's take a look how to do the electric field. Now, electric field you can do, remember, electric field I can do only between the equipotential line, right? So the electric field I can do between the equipotential line. So I can't do the first equipotential line, I can't do electric field. I can do between first and second, second and third, third and fourth, and then so on, right? So which mean on this data table, let's do that. First, I can't do anything here for the electric field, but here I can do. Electric field is separation between the potential values, difference between the potential values, which mean first minus the second, close parentheses, divide by difference between separation between those equipotential lines. That means first minus second, but you need the absolute value. You can see potential is decreasing, but the radius is increasing. Okay, when you take the difference, I need only positive number here. Take the larger one minus the smaller one, right? For this case, let's do this way. Then I don't need the absolute value sign there. It will automatically give me the positive sign. If you do that for 1, let me copy paste this function. You can refer that as you needed. So this is actually function for equipotential. Okay. This is the function for electric field L. Okay. This is the electric field calculated function. Yeah, this should be 5. Each difference should be only about 0.5 meters, correct? It should be 5. So this is the function for ecal. Okay, good. All right, if you do that calculation for 1, then you click and drag this one downward direction. It will automatically do the calculation for you. This electric field we calculating between each of the equipotential line, okay? Not directly from the charge, between 2 lines, 2 black lines only. Okay, good. Any question? You can see as we go further and further away that electric field intensity is actually decreasing, okay? That we can see clearly. All right, then let's calculate the charge. The charge we can calculate, but when you do in the charge calculation, charge has to recalculate by considering the equipotential value relative to the point charge already there. Okay, that means the separation we measuring from the charge there. Okay, So that is, there's two different calculation we're doing here. Electric field between two black lines. Okay, when you do this one, that is between two equipotential line. Okay, equipotential lines. But when you do charge we have to calculate relative to the charge particle and then the potential line, which means first potential line is 17.8 volt, which is about 50 centimeters away. Now to do that calculation, we have to rearrange the formula, right? Remember the equation earlier, which I wrote it down here. If you go back there, so the potential is kq over r. If you want to estimate the Q by measuring the potential, we can estimate Q, which is equal potential measured on any given equipotential line times the radius divided by the K. So I can use that equation to calculate the or re-estimate the charge of the charge particle. If I do in that, then I can do B43, that is R value here, times the A43, that is a potential measure, divided by the K. So if I do that correctly, this number should be very close to the charge we have there. Charge we have there is in 1 nanocoulomb, right? 1 nanocoulomb is 1 times 10 to the negative 9. Let me copy paste this function also. To estimate the charge, you have to do this and copy paste everything into here. Okay, so this is to get the charge. Q calculated. Q calculated, and then I'm going to compare Q calculated with the Q known. Q known is 10 to the power negative 9. Okay, so you can do this calculation. Absolute value D43, that is calculated Q minus Q known is actually 10 to the power negative 9. You can just type it this way, that might be easier. E to the power minus 0.9. So that will be simplify that function a little bit. Let's take a look that there should be 0 here. One times e to the power 9. Reading is still correctly. So let's do this way. So let's type that number here, 1.0 times 10 to the power minus 9. When you do this percentage error, then you can read that directly. (1.0) times 10 to the power minus 9. Okay. Okay. So let's do that way. That will be easier. This is actually percentage error because we know expected value exactly. Okay. 1 times 10 to the power parentheses minus 9. Minus 9 close parentheses multiply by 100. Okay, now let me copy this function and then place it here. That is a function for percentage error. Okay. Okay, good. Everyone okay? Any questions so far? Okay. Any questions so far? Sure. Okay. So take a look all the parentheses. Okay, if there's a parenthesis missing, then you will not get the right answer. There should be a ABS 10 to the power, and then close parentheses of -9. Maybe we don't need the parentheses for negative; it will read automatically. And then there should be a parenthesis here, maybe. Okay, now it's good. So let me copy that function again. So use this way, that is better, I think. Okay, good. Okay, equation. Everybody okay with that? Now to calculate the charges as we go on with the different equipotential line, click and drag and calculate the percentage error, click and drag. You can see that that's why the using Excel is very easy, right? If you do once and then the rest will do the calculation for you automatically, right? So that's why I'm always telling you to start using this analysis tool, some sort of analysis tool. It doesn't matter whether you're using Excel or different, but using some sort of analysis tool will be very useful. Some sort of software data analysis tool. Okay, good. Any questions so far? And now you can see I'm getting the charge calculated very close to nanocoulomb, right? You can see my error is very, very small. 0.02, 0.01, something like that. Very, should be very small, okay? And let's take a look at the behavior, right? We know electric potential should be behave 1 over R. So let's make another graph here. Insert scatter plot. You have to click elsewhere before you insert the scatter plot. Then you will get the graph without anything there. Then you add the data, okay? So the add X values should be R, radius right here. And then Y values should be potential you measured. Those are these. And if our theory is correct, then I should get, you can see exponentially decaying shape, right? You can add axis titles and trend line. Trend line you can reformat to get the power law behavior. Then you will get the nice trend line which looks exponentially decaying. We're not doing any calculation from the graph. We're just testing whether it is the real shape or not. You have to rename chart title, axis title with the units and everything. I done that for the first graph, okay? By looking at that, I think you can do all the other graphs together, okay? All these graphs should be incorporated in your report, but there is no calculation directly from the graph. We're just observing the behavior, okay? Good, any question so far? Everybody okay with the table number 3? Any question? X should be R, Y should be potential. So what we're testing here is actually this, right? You can see graphs is not important. For the data sheet, you can add data tables. That's good enough. But we doing everything in class. So I don't know if you don't do everything in class, you wasting your time to redo this again. So that is all up to you. So you can minimize the amount of time you spend for the labs if you really follow this carefully, closely, and then do everything in the class. Now what we're testing here, now we know potential is actually KQ over R. Okay. So which means if I keep the KQ constant, then the potential is actually function of 1 over R. So which means if I make a graph by taking the potential into y-axis, R into x-axis, you will get a data points look like this. If you do a trend line fitting this data, that should show you exponentially decaying curve. Idea is that if your R goes to infinity, then the potential reaching 0. That's the idea. On the other hand, if R goes to 0, then the potential reach infinity. Okay, that's the idea, right? So the R goes to infinity here, then you can see potential reaching 0, right? On the other hand, here you can see potential reaching infinity because your R reaching 0. So that's the behavior of potential around point charge particle. Got it? Any question? Now you know the idea of the equipotential, idea of equipotential lines. So between each equipotential lines, there's electric field. So we can calculate by knowing potential and the separation. And then right here at the end, what we're testing, if I know the potential, equipotential values around the charge particle, by knowing the separation from the charge particle to the equipotential line, then I can check that behavior. That's what we're observing here in your lab report. You have to explain them, right? You can't just put the graph there on your report. Just below the graph, you have to do explanation, right? The explanation, what is the behavior you see? What does that mean relative to the theory or the expected result? Okay, if you see the expected results, that will validate your theory. If you don't see the expected results, then you have to explain why. That's the idea. So there's 3 graphs so far. So all of those should be included in your lab report. You have to take a look at the sample report before you making this lab. Okay, this lab is actually detailed lab report. Before you starting the lab report, first take a look the sample lab report to see how the lab report should be organized. Okay, if you've never done that detailed lab report, that's totally fine. You have time to learn. Okay, so you have to start learning that. So I'm expecting really high quality lab report. Okay, so any crappy report will be getting huge point reduction first few labs. Okay, that usually I see because depending on your physics 1 class, how you did the lab will not work with this class. Okay, you have to adjust to the what's the expectation of the class little bit. Okay, I'm expecting really high quality lab report. Okay, all right guys, any questions so far? Good, all the 3 data tables and all the 3 graphs. Any questions so far? Everyone okay with that? Now let's take a look what will happen if I bring, let's get rid of everything. You can see this yellow color circle thing right hand side very below on the simulator. If you click that, it will reset everything. Let's take a look at the electric field behavior now. If you have a charge particle, you see the electric field lines, right? If you bring this potential anywhere, and then if you draw a equipotential lines, you can see electric field lines, when it crossing through the equipotential line, it cross through 90-degree angle. That's what I mean earlier. So first, if you're doing this in class, first we draw these black lines, those are equipotentials, right? Then these red arrows, we're going to draw as a guide to eye. There is no other way to draw that because those are invisible. We can't really see them or measure them, right? That's the idea. Now, if I bring another charge particle and then place somewhere close to, you can see all the electric field line is starting from positive and then go towards negative, right? So the starting from positive, go towards negative. So that is, now we have what we call the dipole situation, right? Positive charge particle, negative charge particle. Let's take a look how the equipotential look like around the dipole charge. You can see as I go in between, it's become, you can see now circular lines becomes more elongated towards the midpoint, and then around midpoint you can see equipotential line becomes almost linear, and then it starts bending other side, right? See that behavior? So that's the idea. Now between, very close to each point charge particle, you can see equipotential line is circular around that charge particle, and then middle it more linear, and then other side it circle around other charge particle. Now these black lines are actually equipotential map for the 2-point charge particles, look like the dipole. And then if I switch on the electric fields, then you can see all the field line is starting from positive and then ending at negative. These red arrows not representing anything, you know, scale wise. Now, I forgot to mention earlier, you need actually the picture of this, okay? When you do the simulation, you have to get the screenshot for the each case. And then those screenshots, you have to add into your lab report. You can add those screenshots directly to the data and analysis section, or you can add them, or all of them, to the appendix C. Either way is fine, but you have to make sure you take in the screenshot, okay? There is an inbuilt screenshot right here. If you click this 3 lines right here, right hand side very below, you can see PHET letters, right? If you click on that, you can see the screenshot. You can take directly the screenshot from there if you want to. Otherwise, I think everybody know how to get the screenshot on your computer or laptop. Okay, anybody have any questions so far? Good. Okay, so the table 4. So let's see the time, 9:44. Let's talk a little bit about the exam, and then let's take a break, and then we're going to start exam exactly at 10. So the table number 4 we'll discuss tomorrow morning. Okay, that's very simple table, and then all we need to have is a different shape of charge electrodes. Instead of a small point particle, we need different shape. I will explain tomorrow morning how to get that by combining these charges, and then we're gonna finish that table tomorrow morning. So any questions so far from table 1, 2, and 3? Anybody have any questions? First 3 tables, anybody have any questions? You can submit before the exam, or you can submit after the exam, doesn't matter. You have time till 1 p.m. today, okay? I changed this time for today's lab sheet till 1 p.m. actually. You can submit any time before 1 p.m., okay? But it has to be submitted, okay? All right, so let's take a look a little bit about the exam today. I will talk about lab reports tomorrow morning, little bit more again, okay? So let's discuss very briefly the exam. So the exam we're going to do by using Moodle and WebEx. So you have to be on WebEx. Video should be switched on. If not, you will get 0. If there's any technical difficulty or anything, you have to reach out to me immediately, okay? Please do that. Don't wait until, you know, end of the exam time or middle of the exam time to reach out to me. If you have anything, just reach out. You should be on WebEx. Video should be on, and then I should not see anything like you moving unnecessarily here and there. I should not feel like you using a second device somewhere below your table or somewhere, okay? I'm not telling anybody trying to do bad thing, okay? Don't get that idea, okay? Because this is general announcement, okay? Please This is general announcement. I think every one of you are very good students, okay, but I have to announce this because sometimes certain bad things happen, okay. Uh, I should not feel like you trying to use a second device or anything. You are free to use the class note, okay. If you refer in the class note, that's fine with me. Only thing I'm asking you not to do is that please do not screenshot my question, put it into someone else websites. I am not working for them. Please keep remember that, okay? I'm not working from anybody other than the Bergen Community College in this universe, okay? So I'm only working for Bergen Community College. I'm an independent person. My question, please do not upload to anywhere. That is the only thing I'm asking every one of you. Please don't do that, okay? Yes, please refer the class note. I would be very happy if all you getting 100. I'm happy with that. Okay, I'm not trying to suppress your grade. Okay, I will be so happy if you all getting 100. That's totally fine. But only thing I'm asking, please don't use the web search. Okay, that's the only thing. All right, guys. So what we do? Let's take a break. We have about like 12, 13 minutes. Exam will appear here. And then after you finish the exam, scan everything. If you have any technical difficulty, always reach out. Okay, let me know. Otherwise, all the scanned documents should upload into this link by 12:45 p.m. today. Okay, so please try to reach that deadline properly. Exam will be show up in shortly. Make sure you will be on WebEx with the webcam on at 10 a.m. Okay. So let's take a break. If you have any difficulty with the lab, nothing to worry. I will we'll talk about again the lab tomorrow morning too. Then we can summarize those things again. Okay. All right. So let's take a break and then start the exam at 10.